Well, at that time, Alkazi, known as Elk, popularly known as Elk, ELK, was in fact in negotiation with, it was Madhuri Desai, I think, who was the widow of Bhulabai. And they had this wonderful institute, in one of the most, shall we say, influential parts of the city, on Bhulabai Desai Road, which was named after her husband, and just off what we used to call Scandal Point. I don't know why it was called Scandal Point. Anyway, he got the premises there for the theatre group at one time. Theatre Group of Bombay is the oldest established English group, English theatre group in India, established originally in 1941, before independence. It was the first time that Indians, doing Shakespeare and all sorts of, English and American playwrights. And so it was a very exciting time in the what was it, in the 60s, I think. 60s, he got permission to use the premises and to use the terrace. And he did some wonderful plays, but Alkazi was mainly very much into, let's say, the classics. He was not into Harold Pinter, The only play he did, which I could say is modern in a truly sense, was Waiting for Godot. Brilliant production. This was on his terrace, and I think he also did shows at the Institute. He had a little terrace theatre, very, very neat and kind of very cozy and very intimate. On the terrace, but still, at that time the traffic in Bombay was not that bad. And so this was a wonderful place where we'd meet in the evenings and do rehearsals and chat, and there was a cafe around there so we could order samosas.
Where was the cafe?
I'm not quite sure, but somewhere in the institute. You could get food. I know that you could get food. I forget now where from, but tea was always available. And most theatre people can't do without their chai, usually in an Irani glass. And we used to have wonderful discussions, and Alkazi also used to run a kind of theatre workshop. He was, to the best of my knowledge, the first person who started theatre workshops in India that I know of. And then later on, the theatre group and the theatre unit, Alkazi formed his own group outside the theatre group. It was called Theatre Unit, and they made constant use of that space, doing even productions on the terrace. Earlier, before the split, Kersi Katrak, I remember, did an excellent enactment, what you might call a visualized play reading, what we used to call visual enactments, of The Trojan War Will Not Begin by Jean Giraudoux. That is Jean Geraudaux, Giraudoux.
This was on the boulevard?
This was on the terrace itself, on the terrace, and we had an invited audience and we ran many shows. It was really a very brilliant, shall we say, insight into the world of politics and love. Because the play is about Helen of Troy and Paris and how they caused the Trojan War. Brilliant play. And he had some very, very fine actors. I myself did a few improvisations in that space on all sorts of topics, like, somebody involved in an accident is trying to run away, and they meet together and they wonder how to handle it. Things like that. But Alkazi was the doyen. I mean, he was the man who really brought that space into the Bombay art world. No doubt about it. Frequent that place. They were mainly painters. Hussain was there, of course, M.F. Hussain, and a lot of Gaitonde and all would meet there because it was a kind of, before the NCPA, it was, in a sense, the Bombay Arts Center, which included not only the performing arts but also paintings, poetry, readings from books. But the main purpose, I think, was theatre. Dance, of course, was practiced there, and they had rehearsal rooms, rehearsal spaces. It was a very, very, let's say, disorganized avenue for enjoying the arts. It's the best way I can put it. It wasn't too structured. As NCPA, you got to make a booking and a this and a that. And you just went to old Soli Bhai. Soli was her right-hand man, Madhuri's right-hand man, Soli Batliwala. And he would sort of say, oh, okay, it's free on so-and-so day, come and do it. You didn't have to get affiliated and, all those sort of things. It was very bohemian, though that word is not very rarely used in these days. But it was kind of casual, but at the same time, the work was very dedicated and disciplined. But the atmosphere was totally free and easy.
How often did Alkazi have these workshops? Every day or?
No, yes, if he did a workshop, he'd do a 3-month, I think, workshop. And then it would be every day. And Alkazi was a slave driver, and thank God for that, because we all learned the discipline of theatre, but there is a discipline. But also he was a bit of a, shall we say, straight-laced guy. I mean, he didn't like laughing at rehearsals or any of that. So many of us got into trouble, including me, because I love fun. I love theatre. I mean, I live for theatre. But it's not in a way overly, shall we say, solemn way. Everybody just look. I say theatre is to enjoy in the rehearsal. If you're playing a serious part, you play it seriously. You come off, you may have a drink, you may crack a joke with friends and have a good time. It's not religion, but Alkazi felt it was religion. In the church, you don't laugh. When the theatre group and the theatre unit were one, the theatre group was, if you like, the mother of the theatre unit. It started in 1941 by my elder brother, 10 years older than me, Sultan Bobby Padamsee. And he started this theatre movement, to which Alkazi joined, and then a very great actor and a radio personality, Hamid Sayani, and Derek Jeffrey is a great technologist with lighting and all that. They all joined Bobby Padamsee, and they formed the theatre group. And from that sprang Alkazi and many others. Dubey sprang out of the theatre unit. When Alkazi formed the theatre unit, one of his, shall we say, Shishus, as he was the guru, was Dubey. He had many others, P.D. Shenoy, and many others. Trained a lot of people. That was the funny part about Dubey, which I when I went to the sort of in memoriam Prithvi Theatre, excellently put together, I mean, by Shanbag. One of the things was, which was mentioned only in passing, is that Dubey, who was always a rebel, he was a rebel in the sense that he, as he said many times, unless I have a rival, unless I have someone to envy or I'm jealous of, I don't have any energy. But when that khunnas comes, that I will show them. So one of the things he said, which at that time I was very distressed, and many of the other people in the English theatre, he said, English theatre, I will bury the English theatre. And then in his later years, whether he mellowed or whether he changed his mind, he suddenly started doing plays in English, which he said he'd like to bury it. So anyway, that was good fun, and we all took it in the right spirit, because Dubey was a very charming fellow. Very egotistical, but very charming. So if he fight with you today, tomorrow, when you met him, he'd smile and you'd shake hands and have a cup of tea. It was that kind of upsy-downsy Dubey world. I remember I was doing a Hindi version of Arthur Miller's All My Sons. And we'd already started rehearsals, and I was working with a very brilliant Urdu playwright called Rifat Shamim. And I think we had a really workable script based in India, adapted, not just the original play. And some very good actors, including Shaukat Azmi, who was married to Kaifi, who's the mother of Shabana Azmi, whom I'm directing now 40 years later in Unspoken Dialogues. Sorry, my apologies, in Broken Images. I was doing both these plays. Yeah, in Broken Images, and she's a brilliant actress, but her mother was even more brilliant. And I was doing this Sara Sansar Apna Parivar. And Dubey at the same time was doing a version with a brilliant actor. He acted in Andi which was Takeoff on Indira Gandhi and all that. So he was doing a production also of the same play, which I didn't know, and he didn't seem to know what there are. And we ran both the plays. So I ran mine and he ran his. It was rehearsed at the Institute. Yeah. And yeah, so that was exciting times. You know, theatre can't exist without rivalry. I'll tell you why. Because by nature we actors particularly, and even directors, are very, shall we say, thin-skinned. So any kind of criticism becomes inflammatory. It is sort of, because you're all the time, shall we say, in a state of high adrenaline rush. So anything that's done, if an audience sneezes, the actor gets thrown. And if those bloody cell phones go off, yeah, it's terrible. And Nasiruddin Shah is the only actor I know who announced before, shut off your cell phones. And in the middle of the performance, a cell phone rang and he stopped the play and he said, will you kindly put off the cell phone? The guy was so embarrassed, he walked out of the altar and Nasir continued as if there had been no break. These are little anecdotes that one remembers, but the terrace was very beautiful because at that time there were hardly any high buildings around. And so you had a lovely sort of, you couldn't quite get a view of the sea because Madhuri had built a building, about a 2-story building in front, but from the corners you could see the sea and the sea air. It was a huge place. In nooks and corners, little romances developed. Oh yes. So he was in the painters group. Hussain, Akbar, a lot of others, and we were the theatre part, but there was always intermingling. That was the beauty of the Bhulabhai Institute. It was a place where artists of different languages in the theatre, of different schools of painting, poetry. Nissim Ezekiel was a great figure there, a great guru figure in Nissim Ezekiel. The poet, yes, he had poetry readings there, and I'm not sure, I think Akbar and even Hussain had little sort of get-together workshops, not kind of organized, sign up here and all that. Just, okay, let's meet tomorrow evening and we'll talk about art, and Akbar has a thing about mathematics and art, and Hussain has the thing about, you know, free painting. There was always a kind of a very pleasant garbar, you know. Always conversations, always rivalries, always controversies. That was the beauty of the Bhulabhai.
Could you, what did it look like physically? Was it a 2-storied structure?
It was, as far as I remember, it was one upper and one lower. The lower place was not very well designed. It was very, I always remember coming into Bhulabhai feeling depressed because it was all dark. But once you got to the next level, where the terrace was, then you felt free as a bird. You know, it's like the light at the end of the tunnel. But everywhere there were workshops going on, dance workshops. I'm not sure who were the great dancers doing workshops at that time. I think Hema Devi was one of them. Yeah. At that time, Hema Devi was a big name in dance, and then she moved into theatre. And she trained a lot of actors, particularly in the English theatre, and she was very elocuted. She liked to say, don't suffer from lazy lips. Most Indians speak like this, you know, the lips hardly move. Half the time, kya kaha? So, but all I can say is that I was growing up at that time and I had a wonderful time there. Wonderful, wonderful. I would say that it influenced me in that the theatre was not just one art. It consisted of course, words. It consisted of images, which you can say is closer to painting. It consisted of words that were not necessarily prose, also poetry. It certainly consisted of music, because the whole effects and the thing. So it was a combination of the arts that came together, and the Bhulabhai Institute allowed, to use Mao Tse-tung's phrase, it let 1,000 flowers bloom. And that, I think, was the greatness. That it was there as a space for people to grow in terms of the arts. It was like an arts garden, if I might say. And because it was open air, it was very much like a garden. Downstairs there was a lawn, yeah. Downstairs there was a lawn. There was a lawn. I think that was Madhuri's lawn more than the Bholabhai Institute. But there was a lot of, she'd come over, and Soli Bhai was always there. Soli was the major domo. He was a bit of a manipulator, and I think stemming from the queen, that was Madhuri, he was the kind of, if you take Hamlet, I mean, the queen, he was Polonius, her able advisor, and sometimes a bit devious. And he used to play favorites, but I don't think he was, a lot of people at that time hated Soli. They said, oh, I was going to rehearse in the hall, and then he's given the hall to someone else because, that pretty girl is there, and so on. So he was accused of manipulation, but I never found it. Personally, I never found it. Never. Alkazi was a great one for that, I must say. Hats off to him. His collaboration with Hussain was famous. He did Murder in the Cathedral, where Hussain, for the first time, did the decor of T.S. Eliot's very famous play, Murder in the Cathedral. And he had workshops where there was dance. Theatre people were taught dance, Kathakali. I know I joined one of his courses and was the worst dancer you've ever seen in your whole life. As I said, there was intermingling. Today, I don't find a space like that. There are spaces where you do plays, but they're not spaces where you meet. The NCP, I always feel, should have taken off from there. Taken the whole the spirit of Bholabhai and carried in the NCP, and the NCP should be not only to stage plays or dance recitals or music concerts. It should be in the daytime, people are mingling there. Now they've started a cafe. I've been asking them to do a cafe for, 20 years or more. And finally they're opening the NCPA cafe, which is a wonderful idea because people will meet there, have a cup of tea, and mingle, and there won't be any, you could cross across, like the Prithvi Cafe, and like the cafe at the Jahangir Art Gallery, Samovar. There we used to meet and talk and exchange ideas. Now each sort of theatre has become a kind of guarded place. You only come to do plays and get out as soon as possible. I love it when people come backstage and I sit down. What do you think of the play? Somebody said, I thought it was rubbish. I say, okay, tell me why it's rubbish. And then we get into a discussion. No, they want you to get out straight away. Pop, pop, pop. Done your play, get out. Next. So there's no place in Bombay. The Prithvi Theatre Cafe is one such place, but also it only caters to North Bombay. So South Bombay feels, and I've been speaking to NCPA about it, and this cafe I think is a good idea. But it must be that the place in which you work and where you feel really alive. I've said it before and I'll say it again. When I enter any theatre, anywhere in the world, whether in New York or London or Berlin or Spain or India, as soon as I enter the theatre, I feel this is my home. And that's what people in the arts feel. Life is one part of living, but the arts are where you feel alive. That is kind of living, existing. And the other is when you cross over into the arts area, whether you're painting or composing music or playing in an orchestra or whatever. That is where you are not just living, you are inflamed. You really get a great thrill. The adrenaline starts pumping. And there's nothing like adrenaline for two things. In the arts, you need it. And if you're in love, you get it free of charge. And I'm in love with the theatre. Well, my brother, who's passed away, Chotu, had a big crush on Vijaya, at that time Vijaya Kote. She was married to a guy called Kote, who died, unfortunately, very early. And he had a big crush on her. And I don't know whether it developed into anything. And then there was, when we did Othello, my brother was quite a lad, as they say in English, a lad with the girls. much to my envy, I might tell you. And he fell in love with Desdemona when we were doing Othello, played by a very beautiful Kashmiri girl called Vinita Bhatt. Vinita Bhatt. Well, there were many, but some of the people will feel a bit shy if I mention their name. We got mainly people who were interested in the arts, yes, I will be honest. St. Andrews, which is 800, or Sophia, which is 800, or Tata, which is 1,000, Jamshed Baba, which is also 1,000. And pack it, you can run 100 shows. In those days, if we ran 5 shows, we thought, wonderful. You know? So mainly people in the arts, but they're very knowledgeable. When you did Shakespeare, they knew Shakespeare. When I do Shakespeare today, and I've just recently done Macbeth, a lot of the audience is their first introduction to Shakespeare. They've never heard of it. They've not even teaching it properly in schools. So I'm doing Shakespeare workshops right now, with children, in which I've set some of the speeches of Shakespeare to rock music and some to rap music. And they are overjoyed. They say, this is the language of today. And if Shakespeare, we can hear Shakespeare, even though in song, but as one little kid of 11 years old came up to me the other day and said, "Sir, I want to tell you, I never knew Shakespeare could give me goosebumps." I said, wow, it's wonderful. That's what I mean. So we need to draw people into the arts much more. There are not enough interaction programs on painting. A lot of people ask me, but sir, why do they have abstract painting? Why can't they just do things that we know? I said, that's the whole point of our art. Even if Hussein paints a horse, he paints the spirit of the horse. He doesn't paint a real horse. It's not a real horse, you know. And as you can see around here, I mean, that statue of that girl, bronze statue, you know, leaning like that. Is she in a sexual position? Is she in a lonely position? It all depends on the audience. So art is there for the audience to enjoy at a level at which they understand life. And it is to open windows in your mind so that later on, maybe in life, you can open the doors.
Well, do you recall any anecdotes from the period? Any specific incidents or things that have stayed in your memory?
Well, the one that is the most, shall we say, memorable and the most, in a sense, a scar in my life is when Alkazi, after a while, felt that Alyque Padamsee, Sylvester Decona, Derek Jeffries and all were doing plays within the theatre group, but he felt that was not real theatre. And he then said, look, I'm going to walk out of the theatre group. He was the president at that time. And he called a meeting on the terrace of Bhulabhai. Most memorable in anyone who lived in that era and was in the theatre, very memorable. It was like a Potsdam convention, you know, at the end of World War II. And he announced that I'm going to talk and I'm going to give you some news. We all gathered. At that time, I think there were 100 people on the terrace. And he said, I want to say that there can be only one leader. And that means if you want good work consistently, there has to be one leader. And I don't think we should have any other directors in the theatre group. I am the director. I have been to the Royal Academy of Dramatic Arts. Of course, I have also been there. But he said he has been to the Royal Academy. And he felt he was a trained person in the theatre and there was too much amateur rubbish going on. And therefore he said, either I will take over the theatre group or I will form my own unit called the theatre unit, in which I will select people to join. No one will be free to join, just like. But theatre group had an open policy. Anyone could join. And if anyone wanted to do a play, as long as they'd done some other plays before, so fine.
So anyone could direct a play?
Anyone could direct a play as long as they had some experience. He said, no, your experience may be wrong. Then you'll direct a lousy play. That was his standard. Huh? Whether lousy or brilliant was what he set as the goalposts. So there was a big kind of discussion, and one young man stood up and said, Elk, you're talking all about theatre as if it's religion and all that. Now, we are here to enjoy our life, and this is all a facade. Al-Qazi became red in the face. He said, you call it a facade? This is my life. I've devoted my entire life to theatre, and you're calling it a facade. Very Shakespearean. And we all remember that word, facade. And the poor guy who said that, shrank into his seat like that, and was totally petrified. And then that's where the theatre group and the theatre unit parted companies. Al-Qazi, out of the theatre group, walked out and formed his own group, and he took some of the people from the theatre group, but many of them said, no, we like the theatre group, we like the free space. We don't want to be too regimented. The other place, which was really the cradle of English theatre in Bombay, is my mother's house called Kulsum Terrace. That since 1941 has been the meeting place of all people in the English theatre. Many people have grown out of there, and many of the children. It's not just a theatre, it's like a family of theatre people. And Kulsum Terrace, named after my mother, was Kulsum Bai, and she was the big hostess. She would give everybody kebabs and samosas and chura, and so every evening people met there, whether they were rehearsing a play, and we had three terraces and the drawing room. So there were 4 rehearsal spaces which were used. And that was very exciting because that is where Alyque Padamsee started the theatre group. Al-Qazi was his shishu, he trained under Bobby, and so were Derek Jeffries. And then as luck or love would happen, Bobby's 3 disciples married my 3 sisters. And then everyone, since then, all the children have also gone into theatre. My children, Rayal is in theatre, Kausar is in theatre, and my youngest, Shahzan, is in Bollywood. And the same with Al-Qazi. Both his children, Amal and Faisal, are in theatre. And so it was like a tradition that you were brought up in the theatre, so you became theatre people. And when I say theatre, I don't mean in the narrow sense only theatre. That means literature, a world of art, the world of poetry, the world of music, all that. So that is a real tradition, is when it becomes a seeding place for talent. And I think Dubai was very lucky that Al-Qazi accepted him as a kind of person whom could be trained, and P.D. Shenoy. But otherwise, Al-Qazi was very, very clear and rigid in his approach. It had to be just one leader and you follow only the gospel.
Well, did theatre unit then move somewhere else? Or did it continue to?
No. After a while, they talked about pulling down the Bulabai Institute, and then they built a tall building there, as you know. And then he moved to his own flat, which was a stone's throw from there, on Kambala, on Kemp's Corner, near Kemp's Corner. And he built a kind of terrace theatre on where he was living in the flat below, and he built a terrace theatre. And that was also a very unique place, very unique. Jerson is probably our finest Shakespearean actor of all time. He's fantastic. What a voice and a presence he's got. It's really excellent. And Sylvie was a director. He directed a lot. Then he somehow, I don't know, he lost interest. Advertising took over his life. In my case, I had a double life. You go to your work, do your advertising, come in the evening, and you rehearse till 10:30 at night, doing plays. Next morning you get up and go to advertising, evening you do theatre. Throughout my life. I'm saying it was very active. I don't think Soli had a few things, a few evenings, like a musical evening or a poetry evening, but he was not the driver of that. The institute itself, the walls and the terrace of the institute was like a magnet. It attracted people. And they were not too strict about, oh, you have to be this, oh, you have to be that. I remember a very free and easy attitude.
Did Madhuri Desai visit often, or did she watch your plays?
She certainly watched every play we did there, no doubt about it. But she visited sometimes. She was not, she was, her health at that time was not 100%. She was getting on in years. I think she was about 60 or something. And I remember she used to walk either with a stick or very slowly. That I remember. And Soli was the man you really dealt with. She wanted did more on the hassle.
But there's, there was a time when I think there was a gallery at that place.
Yes, yes.
Bal Chabra.
Yes.
Gallery 69.
That's
59.
right.
Sorry, 59.
Huh? Gallery 59, correct,
And,
correct.
There's a famous sort of fracas that took place where he found some dancers in his studio. Bal Chabra in the gallery studio, and then he went to Soli.
Yeah.
And Soli said, so what? I've let them have a space. And then he came and he broke the lights. And
it was about, I think, 61. I was in London doing TV training for 6 months. So I missed that particular thing, yeah. But many of our artists, Akbar, who now is the grand old statesman and spokesman for the art world, at that time he was doing painting where he was arrested by the police, the progressive artist. I don't know if you know that very famous case. And Akbar's painting, it was Akbar's painting. He was here the other day, we were having a family get-together, and he was regaling everyone about how the police came and under this section, so and so and so on. So they were all, shall we say, very rebellious crowd. Good, it was good. I did a play which was banned.
Okay.
It was Pratap Sharma's A Touch of Brightness. And we were invited to the Commonwealth Arts Festival in London, the first Commonwealth Arts Festival. And we were the only Indian group invited. It was a great honor. We rehearsed, and it was a wonderful cast I had. Vijaya Kote at that time, who met Farokh Mehta in the play, and they fell in love and got married. And there was Zul Velani, superb actor, and there was Pearl, my wife, another brilliant actress, and a very, very Meena Chitnis, who was son of Leela Chitnis, also a good actor. And then at the last minute, somebody told the Home Minister that this is a play about the red light district, and they are going to take this to London to show the whole world that Maharashtra women are portrayed as red light women. So the 2 days before we got to get on the plane, everything booked, everything, rehearsed, everything. Home Minister confiscated all our passports.
Where were you rehearsing for this play?
We were rehearsing in the Indian National Theatre. That's another lovely place. No. At the Bhulabai Temple, Yeah. Not Bhulabai. Babul's my fault. I'm getting mixed up with Bhulabai. No, Babulnath Temple. To walk up the stairs, turn right, walk up the stairs. And there, right at the top, is a kind of a go-down space. And we rehearsed Touch of Brightness there. And then Pratap Sharma, who's just passed away, wonderful person and a good playwright. He fought the censor board for 7 years. And finally, he got the play passed and he got the whole censor board overturned. And the High Court said, you can't do this. You can't censor plays like this. And then they formed this drama scrutiny committee, which scrutinizes all drama done in Maharashtra. But there were lots of controversies, but everyone was fighting for rights, you know what I mean? They were not sitting back and saying, let other people do it. So I must say, in Bombay, the British presence, the British Raj presence was very little. I was in school, in the cathedral school, where there were a lot of British boys. But I've been asked this question, did you feel any discrimination? I must say no. I didn't feel any discrimination. I mean, they said, well, you bloody Indian bastard. Never. When I went to England, I got that. You bloody Indian bastard. But in the cathedral school and in India, in every walk of life, at parties and everything, there may have been an underlying feeling that, at least the Indians know their place. But I don't remember that. I remember many parties with British young people, and they were all very jolly and friendly and drink together. So, yes, we had a sense that we were free, and Gandhiji was our great father of the country. And the Indian National Theatre, that's what it was named that, and IPTA, IPTA, were very, very committed to independence. I will say that the English theatre took a long time to write their own plays. It was only when we started the Sultan Padamsee Playwriting Award in 1965 that English writing began to, in plays, began to grow. And now they've got this writer's block, which is another excellent thing. We just had another Sultan Padamsee Award, this in 2011. But at that time, there were no writers who could write powerful stuff. There were Hindi writers. And a lot of the poets then moved there. And there was, of course, Prithviraj himself at the Prithvi Theatres at Opera House. That was an experience. If you want to write about something, write about the years of the Prithviraj Theatre, Prithvi Theatres at Opera House. And I was a very young, you might say almost a schoolboy. I used to go and see, these plays, Diwar and all sorts of wonderful plays, Pathan, and terrific.
Well, he never came to Bombay Institute, did he?
No, I don't think so, no. No, I don't think so. Kusum Haidar, before she was Kusum Bahal, I think.
Yeah.
And she became one of Al-Qazi's, shall we say, shishus. And he trained her and he put her in all his plays. But at that time she was very, very young. And I think they'd moved out of the Bombay Institute. I can't remember when they moved out. And Al-Qazi then made his terrace a sort of the place where his theatre unit worked.
Do you recall what Al-Qazi's building, what the building was called?
Vittal Court.
Vittal Court.
VITAL Court. It's just near the church, St. Stephen's Church there, on the Kemp's Corner Road. No, I can't say. I can only say that it was a very stimulating time. It was a very, very pleasant and conducive atmosphere to creativity. Being near the sea, then you can always, go off there and sit on the wall and smoke, and have a nariyal pani. That was another very good thing, because there a lot of nariyal walas used to sit. And I think we were
Any parties? Do you have any parties there?
At the Boulevard, I don't think parties were allowed, but at Kulsum Terrace there was a party every week. We had a thing called the Hunt party. That meant everyone, it was like everyone, a pound party. Someone bought wafers, someone bought, and there was no drinking. Someone bought Duke's lemonade, someone bought kebab, someone bought this. And every Saturday night at Kulsum Terrace, from about 8 in the evening till 12 and sometimes 1 o'clock, there was laughter, dancing, mimicry. People would, imitate other people, and laughter and a lot of dancing. Those days, all parties were dance parties. Today, I go to parties, everyone says, and the music is so loud you can't talk. So, I don't know what the enjoyment is. If you're going to drink, you might as well buy a bottle of scotch and sit at home and drink. But in those days, they were real. They were parties. Today, they're kind of, drink yourself into the ground. I miss that. I miss that whole atmosphere of friendliness and camaraderie. Yes, rivalries too, but always good fun. And I remember later on when Dubey became quite friendly and so on. And I remember inviting him to a hunt at Kulsum Terrace. And he said, what day? I said, it's always on Saturday, so come this Saturday. He said, yeah, I'll come, but if you pay my taxi fare. That was Dubai. You know, I think he was just kidding. He was busy or something. He was making a kind of joke of it. That I'm so broke that I can't come. I've tried to continue the tradition on the terrace here every Christmas. It's called the Christmas Eve at Christmas Eve party. It's the same kind of spirit. There's no formality about it. People come and go, and there's a lot of, and then we sing Christmas carols and all that sort of thing. So I'm a real believer that if you're dedicated to something, do it to the best of your ability. But don't treat it as a religion. And I'm saying religion in the worst sense of the word. I love religion in the best sense. That is, if religion teaches you to love other human beings, great. But if you have to go to a church every Sunday, or you've got to go to confession every Friday, or you've got to go to the mandir every day, or you've got to not go out on Tuesdays, I don't like those rules. I'm an anti-rule person. Okay?